أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu Alaykum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuhu. Al-Azim, Our Deen. We're now in the first of Shawwal, Bismillahi Ta'ala, Ajma'een. Meaning, Eid Mubarak to you all, brothers and sisters, as I just came outside of Eid Salah. As I'm going home, inshallah, returning back in another path, Bismillahi Ta'ala, as to follow the Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I just want us to, inshallah Ta'ala, embark on a few reflections. Subhanallah al-Azim, as we are, completing the term for students of BIOA02 and BIOC17, I want to highlight within Ayah Ta'ala some reflections that I've made and some reflections within Ayah Ta'ala that will connect us back to our Deen until and beyond Yawm Deen. Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. Firstly, subhanAllah, when we're in these courses, it's important to appreciate and resonate, indeed, once again. As we've talked about for Surah Al-Kahf, for example, resonating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words, the signs, the wisdom, the commands that He's deposed and legislated in His words, in His final testament. Indeed, subhanAllah, there are signs for those who believe. And these signs include even within our classes, right? From the lessons that we learn, subhanAllah, things alternate, right? Like the signs in the day and the night, right? The alteration of the night and day, for example. Subhanallah, al-Azim, wa Rabbul Arsh al-Kareem, we're, able to soundly appreciate, changes that may appear subtle, but changes that indeed the Muslim al-Latif knows best, and al-Alim indeed is all-knowing and knows best for our every deed. For indeed, in His remembrance do our hearts find rest. And so, subhanAllah connects us once again. But I want to highlight, subhanAllah, like being a TA in this course, in a few courses, like in BIOA02 Introductory Biology and BIOC17 of Microbiology, alhamdulillah, you're able to see students, and the beautiful thing is Muslim students, subhanAllah, trying to shine, in the Deen and in the dunya, excelling in both, but most importantly, pursuing excellency in the Deen of Islam. It's important to highlight, the confidence once is one point, but also character is and content. So let me actually. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم آمنت بالله ورسوله. May Allah protect us all. May Allah forgive us all for our shortcomings. SubhanAllah. I want to integrate this in the sense of the content in the I5 approach, as we've spoken about. That is Islam, connecting back to Islam, investigation, principles of investigation, of integration, invention, and implication. And so, subhanAllah, as we talked about before, and Islam is our way of life. Islam, by submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all dimensions, all creation, all dominions, all provisions, all conditions, all tests and tribulations, all situations, subhanAllah, of all creation indeed, that, subhanAllah, indeed, to our hearts find peace and comfort in His remembrance in the Quran. And in the signs that He's revealed in the Quran, many times we find beautiful reminders and connections back to the Deen, and from the sciences or within the sciences, subhanAllah, as Allah reminds us to think and ponder about what is within ourselves, right? And within ourselves, right? Subhanallah. In the sense that, to like look around ourselves, and within ourselves and beyond ourselves are things that Allah wants us to do or pursue. Being able to be among souls that seek to be pleasing to Him and seek to, follow His commands. So, subhanAllah, like when we study biology, we often like look at, and this may, connect us to, understanding investigation. We seek to, number one, and wholeheartedly please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And so, and that's something I want to highlight, because even in our investigations and even before then, as we, pursue any path, towards the Sirat al-Mustaqim, we seek Allah's rida, His pleasure at all times, right? And all dimensions, situation, conditions that He allows us to be in. And so when it comes to investigation, often we try to think critically. We try to analyze society, analyze our bodies, and analyze what's within ourselves once again, right? And Allah's creations around us as well. So, investigating could be in manifold ways, but being able to connect back to the Deen is pivotal, right? So let me give you an example, or let's talk a bit about investigation. So, when we, for example, went to the Toronto Zoo, BIOA02, right? We had 3 classes there. Alhamdulillah, Alameen, Kareem. We saw many organisms, maybe 30 different types of organisms, or 30 organisms across 3 or more pavilions or different areas, right? Different forms of Allah's creations. And like subhanallah, you see the African penguins, to the Arctic wolves, to the Suleiman Island frogs, to the jellies, so many different types of organisms, that you would be so amazed that, subhanallah, all belong to Allah and all will return to Him. Subhanallah, in matters, all matters, subhanallah. And let's say, for example, and you may have noticed this even in my articulation when it comes to, using Suleiman versus the Solomon Island. I say Suleiman because, we want to articulate the Arabic versus Jewish or Judaic / Latin, or sorry, or / Anglican versions, of Allah's creation. I mean, you can, like, what I'm trying to display is that there's you have like the connections that are so amazing that connect us back to our Deen, and even remind us, of ourselves. Like when we even investigate society, if you look around me, there's so many trees, right? So much that you sometimes see as debris, but in reality, these are living organisms, or these are organisms that are withering by Allah's decree, by His will and majesty. And subhanAllah, this is something I've touched upon, and something that we can take a benefit when it comes to investigating. Let's say, for example, the amount of time, or like the recovery, or the stability, the strength, and the agility of different organisms, right? To live for different longevities, right? Some organisms like E. coli, which connects us to BIOC17, can replicate every 20 minutes, at room temperature or at 37 degrees, and you have other organisms that, like essentially cooperate with one another, like Arctic wolves or jellies, subhanAllah. And, like when we look at these in terms of, investigation, we want to see different patterns, answer certain questions, and be interested in trying to investigate Allah's creations, and that's where connecting to Islam comes in, because indeed we believe that Allah is Al-Khaliq, He is the true creator of all, and subhanAllah, He is Al-Samad, the self-sufficient, such that He needs none, but but all needs him, subhanallah, or that we that subhanallah, he needs none, but we all need one, and that is Allah as-Samad and Al-Ahad, the one and only, subhanallah. Subhanallah al-Azim, wa Rabbul Arshil Kareem. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين يا رب العالمين. SubhanAllah, as we also look around, you see some deposits on the floor. You see some deposits on the floor, like, some rocks, debris. And this also connects us to like the lemna bioassay, right? And we were talking about this, last set of labs and one more to go, inshallah, for AO2. But subhanAllah, connects us back to, the impact that these different organisms may have, like including rocks, on water, streams, aquatic organisms, coral reefs, as we talked about, the zoo, so many other examples indeed. And then the third principle, or component slash tenant is, or component is the concept of integration, right? As you can see around me, maybe hard to see now, but essentially you have trees, right? And they sprout with a root, from a root, right? As we learned from AO2, to having shoots, right? And they have maybe branches as they mature and grow older, right? And some of them grow, many feet tall. And some we count, being, 20 millimeters long, subhanAllah, al-Azim. And so, like, these are examples for us to understand and appreciate His divine decree, indeed. And being able to, subhanAllah, in analogy, see different core fields, from, let's say, math to chem to biology, and seeing how they connect in different ways to one another, and how different, subhanAllah, shoots of fields emerge thereafter. So, like, from math, you have physics. From physics, you have astrophysics. From, you have in math, you have comp-sci, computer science that comes out, that diverges, right? And then you have the connections of biology to, animal physiology, or to internal medicine, or to neuroscience, right? And from neuroscience and, comm science, computer science, you have connections between branches that form to what we know of today, right? Like of AI, right? So artificial intelligence. But, subhanAllah, there's so many internet connections, intertwined relations between fields. And that's where, inshallah ta'ala, becoming the best in our specialties, and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost, and that He is the Lord of all fields, all dimensions, all creations, all professions, all provisions, all conditions, all tests and tribulations, reminds us that, subhanAllah, He is Al-Alim, the all-knowing, Al-Hakim, the all-wise, as we talked about from our Golden Quran series. And I hope that, all of these even series and seminars interconnect as well, like those same branches as we've spoken about, right? And I'm just showing like display, like there's so many examples around us, right, to portray, subhanAllah. And I really hope, brothers and sisters, you've come to appreciate this, and a million of Bismillah ta'ala benefits that, may Allah allow it to be that, see that tree in the background. May Allah allow us to fruit even more beyond our imagination with our golden age soon. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen, if Allah wills, indeed. SubhanAllah. And then you have, so, integrating the different fields from the Islamic appreciative lens, and, knowing that Allah is the Lord of all, creation, all disciplines, fields, professions, subhanAllah, beyond what we even know. SubhanAllah al-Azim. You now have inventions. And this is where you're innovative in the sense that, or you're trying to be applicatory or applicative or transitory in the sense that see, let's say, you've investigated a certain question, or an observation of Allah's creation, and you're wondering, how can I relate to this? How can I, let's say, see the debris around me and see how it could benefit, the society and environmental sciences, or like looking into medicine, for example, right? These are things that we as Muslimin they want to think creatively, right? Integrating once again, but then perhaps inventing different solutions to the problems we see around us from an Islamic lens as well, right? So, for example, we see riba as indeed it's a major sin, interest, usury, and subhanallah, finding, showcasing, delivering to society here in the West alternatives that will actually please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Doing hawala or like doing, sorry, the like in back home, for me, Ethiopia, we have something called or uqub, meaning that like you essentially will go around in circles to deposit an X amount, a set amount of funds, and then inshallah ta'ala, it will be collected and then returned or recirculated as a group. So like in turn. So if let's say you pitch in $30 today, and this week everyone pitches in $30, and then like everyone essentially together puts in a set amount of funds per week or per month or per period of time, and then following their turn in the specific order of those that have transferred the funds, they'll return it back the cumulative amount for what they they essentially deposited, right? So they would withdraw and deposit, but it will not make use of interest essentially. So it's a way to recirculate money bi'idhnillahi ta'ala in a more efficient and Islamic actually. And number one, it's Islamic bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I hope that it is, and in this realm, it's important to have Islamic approaches, right? Islamic alternatives or the Islamic solutions, rather, that will benefit all of humanity indeed. For indeed, Allah is the Lord of all creation, all provisions, all dimensions, right? And so these are ways for us to appreciate this at greater scale, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, for ourselves and may Allah elevate our skills in return with Him. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And the last component briefly is about implications with ta'ala. Sometimes you conduct a study, research article, and you think, okay, what's next? What do those results imply? As you often are asked, right? For research conferences, for example. Like, what benefit does it have? Right? And so these are things that you want to also ponder upon, because it connects us to know and appreciate the next steps that you can take in your future, in your path, like as I'm taking now, right? So subhanallah, like what I mean is like, okay, inshallah ta'ala, we as we are right now, aiming to subhanallah al-azim, when we think about implications, I try to think of like telling students about, thinking about what the results extend to, right? So for example, like if we look back into the past of even just our natural environment, and it may be a bit hard to see, but like if you look at the grass and appreciate, the return of life from, or the return of their growth from Allah's mercy alone, it shows you that resurrection. This is the sign for those that believe, right? Islamically, and that subhanallah, by Allah's mercy, we could come to appreciate the implications of this, right? And also looking, let's say, into the lab, right? For example, or like actually looking even still back here, how these could better serve humanity, right? Or like, for example, reminding people about resurrection as a reality following this world, or looking at the different creations. Like right here, I could see birds around me and thinking about subhanallah, how they, metabolize or even just are able to thermoregulate, as we talked about the Toronto Zoo, right? Subhanallah al-Azim. These are things that are by Allah's mercy, Allah's signs of His creation. And, looking within ourselves, sometimes we see people, eat certain fruits, herbs, etc., and you see the medicinal benefits, right? That you may have been surprised about. And subhanAllah, this connects us within Allah Ta'ala to readily different things that we've spoken about thus far. Like if we look at the benefits of, you know, of fasting, for example, right? And we've seen, alhamdulillah, Alameen, after 30 days of fasting, the benefits that many people have acclaimed, the scientists as well, on their thermoregulation, on their metabolism, on their health, overall health, indeed, and aging. And these are things that are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And if you look into the lab further, like now let's say you do an experiment, right? And you see, okay, you've transformed colonies of E. coli with PGLO, HB101 E. coli subtype, subhanAllah, or serotype. You find that, let's say you've transformed bacteria. What does that imply? Maybe you can transform those same bacteria with genes that could not only express ampicillin resistance or GFP protein green fluorescence, but you could perhaps, instill maybe insulin growth, like you could essentially input in simple terms, or transform those same colonies with other genes of interest, right? And to thereafter, ta'ala, synthesize unique proteins of interest, right? And imagine, like for the case of someone who has diabetes, that you've now not only transformed bacteria to have many, have genes that would synthesize insulin, but in turn you would also have, for example, the purification, right, which connects us back to subhanAllah, right? We know this in the sense of having pure food and provision. But subhanAllah, let me go just a bit back actually. The concept of, being, subhanAllah, mindful of, to be able to purify, just like tazkiyah, but in the purification of essentially of those bacteria, now to have just the good, essentially, in the sense of having insulin, let's say, purified as proteins from the rest of the bacteria themselves, right? And so you have like the lysis of these bacteria, but you have in return purification, extraction of a protein of interest that can be delivered as a drug to those that are diabetic. And you see how those implications can have incredible, impacts on society at large. And now just imagine integrating this back to the Deen, right? Because Allah is Ahsanul Khaliqeen, He is the best of all creators. And He is Ahsanul, He is Khairul Raziqeen, as you know from Surah Maryam. And so Ali Imran is the best of providers, right? So can He not provide us the best of medicines, the best of cures, the best of implications for all of our results in every situation and investigation? These are things I want us to think about, brothers and sisters, as we continue in our path in this dunya to the akhirah, to the best and highest of places with Him, Jalla Jalaluhu fi 'ula. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from us all. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And subhanAllah, as we learned this, I talked about content in the I5 approach. And now, believe it or not, like looking at the road, and something that I talked about for the reflections of our Golden Quran series is, like being able to be mindful, like even looking down on the ground, seeing, picking up objects that surround us, sorry if I was a bit too close, but like you may see items on the floor, and this also delivers another angle or dimension of character, right? As a TA or as a teaching assistant or even a professor or student, it's very important to articulate the Deen with care and character and conduct, and like being able to showcase what the Deen truly means, being able to show and deliver that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indeed our creator. He's the best of all creators, that He has created this not for play or mere amusement, but everything has a purpose, right? As we referred to earlier, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك وقنا عذاب النار. Right? And actually, this is those that يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم. So these are the people who say this dua, right, from Surah Al-Imran, near the end. Those that ponder upon, remember Allah and ponder upon His creation in night and day, or in the qiyam, with sujood, and as they lie down, وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم, as they lie down on their sides, ويتفكرون, and they ponder ما في خلق السماوات والأرض, ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض, in the creation of the heavens and the earth. Subhanallah, and imagine everything in between. Subhanallah. ربنا, they say ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا. They say you have not created this without purpose. Subhanak, glory be to you. Taqina adab al-nar. Subhanallah, does it not connect us back that glory be to you, Allah? Remembrance, as we talked about, of adhkar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our golden Quran, reflections, looking around, our society and Allah's provisions, see like how some different plants, I want to see if I can remove the background so you can inshallah ta'ala appreciate this as well. Like you see so many provisions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the limited effects that we as human beings can do, right? Even the filter settings are subhanallah not on, but yet there's only so much you could see from the visible eye, and yet subhanallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to see it unfiltered by His mercy. And with this in mind, being Muslimin, it also gives us an appreciation of an Islamic lens where we are able to filter out the bad, remove the evil, and do what is good. Please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and extract, purify ourselves, and please Him best. And this is how we excel in our every test. Be picking up, as we speak, like picking up any debris on the floor, or speaking to our students nicely with conduct. If a mistake happens on their side, that we are forgiving, we are understanding, right? Or if they need any form of accommodation, right? If it's sensory, if it's religious, if it's sensory, subhanAllah. If it's mental, these are like or physical, these are things that, and spiritual. These are dimensions that we want to support as Muslimin. We are the best of Allah's creation, and the best of all nations, in fact, right? It's subhanallah. I hope that we will be in Allah's sight. I hope to be the best of His creation. But we ask Allah to be the best of His creation. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And so with this, and even if in our past we found people that maybe subhanallah speak to us in ways that maybe test us, even as we fast, we respond salama, we respond with peace, and bidnai ta'ala, Allah will grant us a comforted, peaceful heart with a qalbun salim, right? Into Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la bisalam, bisalam. SubhanAllah, this is connecting us back to our Golden Quran series, and I hope the integrations are well with you all, and that inshallah ta'ala we begin from the integrative intellect, maybe Allah, may Allah allow us to please Him best. And subhanAllah, similarly for our golden history, I hope that inshallah ta'ala invoke a love and passion, inshallah ta'ala, to seek our golden age for all of us, indeed. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. No matter how small, no matter how large, no matter how close, no matter how far, I hope inshallah ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will unite us all. May Allah accept it from you and all. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So we talked about conduct, we talked about conduct, content and conduct. Now, confidence, inshallah ta'ala. Yaqeen and certainty. I want to talk about this because it's a very, very important. That, as we, deliver our content, right? Or even may Allah allow us to perfect. ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. This is a powerful dua that reminds us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, ادعوني أستجب لكم, right? Call unto me and I'll answer. And I will respond, in return, subhanAllah, in return. That, subhanAllah, ربنا أتمم لنا, our Lord, perfect for us, أتمم لنا نورنا, our light, واغفر لنا, and forgive for us our sins. واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. إنك على كل شيء قدير. Indeed, you are all capable over all things. You're all powerful. SubhanAllah, He's all powerful to let the definite heartbeat to continue, even at changes of temperature in this particular term that we just seem to artificially classify. But SubhanAllah, these are the wisdoms from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to reflect that the valves open and close with the cardiac cycle. That the night goes into the day, and the day alternates with the night. SubhanAllah, these are the beauty of the skies. Every night and every day is a different sunrise and sunset with a different unique coloration of the skies, right? SubhanAllah, you think of physics in that realm, but you more importantly think about the Deen, right? And these are things that are indeed from Ahsanul Khaliqeen, the best of all providers. And being confident in displaying this with qanat, with etiquette, with Islamic understanding to those that are around us is something profound, including students. They're the next generation, bid'nai ta'ala, perhaps even today's generation. And especially when we're teaching Muslims, we want to deliver that in the same level of etiquette so they demonstrate it to other Muslims, right? And the non-Muslims that come to them or to us, we deliver to them in turn the Deen with the content, right? So this, with the I5 approach, or with the content, with the I5 approach that mends this content together, that incorporates the Deen with the best of akhlaq and character, to the confidence and yaqeen that we have, certainty and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we'll return to Him, and that we must rely on Him and ask for His guidance alone. These are things that will bring us closer ta'ala to our golden age, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala ajma'in. And subhanAllah, as we are near concluding, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us all of our efforts as we've completed the blessed month of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us all with the best of ends in this life, and to make our golden age a reality that we all see. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Barakallahu feekum. And I hope, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, these reflections of our golden lab were indeed of benefit for you and us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reach Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la bighayri hisab with you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. With bighayri hisab, but with the greatest of rida, with Him, honor and pleasure from Him, and that we are in the best of status with Him. Jalla Jalalu fi'ala. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. بارك الله فيكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.